Hey everybody, it's Lazarus, and I thought I'd share with you daily exercise drawings I've been doing for the past couple of years on plain bond paper. A majority of these drawings were done with either Sharpie markers, Micron pens, Faber-Castell markers, various pens from Jet pens, and a lot of them have been colored either with Copic markers, art sticks, and a few with pastels, but mostly Copics. So let's get started. People ask me, one of the hardest questions I've always had to answer was, what are my influences? I joined a couple of art groups a while back, and I always felt out of place because everyone had studied in college and, they had mentors, not mentors, but their influences were Matisse, um, Rembrandt, Picasso, And when it came my turn to answer, I would tell them Chuck S.A., Bill Shore, John Branch, Ed Stein, and they had no idea who I was talking about. Fact is, they're all literature cartoonists. And the other thing was, I'm a self-taught artist. I never went to school for any of this. Anything that I learned, I picked up on my own. And this was the time before YouTube, so a lot of things I got from books, or from Bruce on cartooning, Blitz on cartooning on PBS, as well as various books that I would see either at Walden Books or Barnes & Noble. One of the hardest things about, as you can tell, most of these are caricatures. One of the hardest things I've had throughout my whole life of doing caricatures is I always compared myself to everybody else. For example, Tom Richmond, a very popular caricature artist and cartoonist, I've always wanted to draw like him. The thing is, I can't. Even if I was able to mimic his style, I'd be a cheap knockoff. So it's better, to have your own style and not worry about being like someone else. Just like as a kid, I grew up on comic books, and at the time it was Jim Mooney, Jim Aparo at DC Comics and Spider-Man that I was influenced by. Then came John Byrne, who had a nice cartoony style, did kind of big eyes, almost like manga style, and I fell in love with his art. Then came Frank Miller with the Grim and Greedy stuff at Daredevil, followed by George Perez doing Teen Titans and all the details he could do. And often, like anyone else, I would mimic that stuff. But in the end, why do I want to be a knockoff? Be yourself. This is a funny cartoon I do. I do a lot of funny cartoons as is. A lot of these are done, some of these caricatures came from a Facebook challenge that they have every week. I enjoy doing them a lot. Some of these I do, first of all, here's a art group. Me, a friend of mine here in San Antonio named Kevin, and another girl named Ruth from Germany. We call ourselves the Arts and Drafts. Anyway, I was talking about a Facebook group, caricature group. We have a challenge every week where someone picks a celebrity or someone popular on TV, and everyone takes turns drawing them. At the end of the week, people vote on who they think is the best, and then from there, that week's winner will pick the next subject for the following week, and on it goes and on it goes. I really enjoy those. Yeah, you can tell some of these were done with Sharpie markers. You definitely tell. I watched Luke Cage and did some of the characters on the show. I'm influenced by a lot of things, and sometimes the littlest things. I can see something on TV, and I want to draw it. Also, I have a bad habit of paying homage to celebrities that have passed away. And I'm kind of getting away from that because everybody does those. I want to be a little bit different with my art. My friend Clay, who says on one of those caveman diets I make fun of. The one thing I do like through modern social media is I've met so many great people from all over the world. Sweden, Germany, California, Georgia. And, I developed some great friendships there. And not just that, but, we get advice from one another. My friend in Georgia, he's good on digital art. And I know I can ask him any questions. In fact, it was through him that I ended up buying an iPad to eventually do some digital art. I just haven't practiced as much as I want to. As you can tell, God, I stay busy. Sometimes I get in a binge of drawing, and I'll draw all day, just 10, 15 characters per day. Sometimes I'll color them. A lot of times, I like to leave them black and white. I'm really a big fan of black and white art. I don't know why I've always been that way. Although I did grow up on 4-color comics. I've been thinking about, I bought a couple of kind of pricey sketchbooks through Lake Michigan Press. And I was thinking of what to put in them. One of the hardest things I have, like anybody, is starting a sketchbook and filling it up. Because you don't know what you want to put in it. Sometimes you want to do some of your best work in it. Sometimes you just want to, mess around. Test your ideas on it. So I'm thinking of doing something that I call the profane. I'm going to do some controversial figures that have been in the news lately. People that have committed probably some heinous crimes. We'll try to put it, maybe, I don't know if I can put a humorous spin on it or not. I don't even know. People are probably going to give me a lot of crap about it. For example, I know this was a nurse. I think she was called the Angel of Death that I found on the internet. Another Stephen Bacco, who did a lot of TV shows. Mini-Me. Like I said, this was just done on plain bond paper a lot of times. I try to take no more than 5 to 10 minutes when I do a caricature. That's why I've always been trained, even when I was younger. And I had gotten away from doing caricatures for a long time. I gotten sick. I lost my eyesight, complications of diabetes. And it took almost a couple years before I finally got the cataract surgery I needed. But even then, since then, I've had some problems with my eyesight still. For example, I kind of have a bad habit of, I still sometimes draw crooked. One eye will be higher than the other, or even when I'm drawing a mouth or something. And it's just something I have to try to adjust. It's been kind of difficult because, like any artist, I'm very hard on myself. Very perfectionist. Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed about all the artists that I talked to and met. We think each other's art is so great, but then as we get to talking, we'll discuss each other's art and they'll say, "Oh, I can't stand looking at this," or "It drives me nuts to see this stuff." And I don't see the problem with the art. Just as I guess when they tell me they see my art and I'm cringing at things that I see, and they're telling me that I'm crazy, that it looks just fine to them. But again, we're our own worst critics as artists. And, I wish there was a way we could get out of that. But it's just the way I guess us artists are wired. You see so much art here. And see, they can tell there's some Tom Richmond style of art there. So he did rub off on me in some ways. Aside from that, people ask me what do I like to do when I have a problem and I can't draw. I said usually I step away from it. I'll watch TV. I'll listen to music. I like to watch a lot of animated movies. And some of the best ones I like are people didn't remember, like The Last Unicorn, which I thought had some great animation in it. Hanna-Barbera did a lot of good stuff early on. Yogi Bear, Snagglepuss. I kind of like the manga. And the animes. Ghost in the Shell, one of my favorite. Psycho-Pass. But I kind of like sticking to more cartoonier stuff. Muhammad Ali, of course. I've been also asked, why the nickname Lazarus? It goes back to about 15 years ago. I was very successful doing caricatures. I got into a bad habit, of course, like a lot of people do. Certain demons came out, and I pretty much almost lost everything. I got divorced. My kids stopped talking to me as they got older. And then my health deteriorated. On top of that, I had my sister, who I was very close to, pass away. And a couple years later, I lost my brother. And at that time, I just fell apart. And that's when I wasn't taking care of myself, and having type 2 diabetes, that led to me developing cataracts and almost losing my eyesight. Well, in fact, I did kind of lose my eyesight. That's why I needed the cataract surgery. I also got very sick and was hospitalized. And I had to have a partial amputation on my left leg. But it took all that to finally snap me out of it. And when I came out of it, it took me about a couple of years to finally pick up the pen again. And I felt almost reborn. So in that case, you know, I took the nickname Lazarus because I felt like I'd been risen from the dead, that I'd come back to life. So there's that, you know, whether you want to know or didn't want to know. Christopher Lee. But, you know, instead of talking about myself like that, I prefer to be known for my artwork. And so many times you won't see myself on these videos. I want you to know my artwork more than who I am personally. Like I said, it's been about over 10 years that I did live caricatures. And just recently, a friend of mine and we actually went to a Hooters and we started drawing the waitresses there. And it was a pretty big hit. We must have done, God, about 15 waitresses that night. And it was funny because as we did the first one, another one came up, asked if we could draw her, and then another one. And then suddenly the manager and one of the editors says we're running around the corner. And they were looking, I guess they were looking for us. And they kept going table to table till they found us. And right away they asked if we had time to draw them. And we said, of course. We're not going to turn down drawing attractive women. People know him as Kylo Ren. I prefer to call him Adam from Girls. But we had a lot of fun, and we've been doing that. I'd say we've gone a couple of times. I'm thinking about going back, and I'm actually thinking about taking my art sticks out there, my pastels, and trying color. I've never done color caricatures live. Reason being is, when I learned to do caricatures, I was, you know, people were always saying time is money, and I could do a black and white caricature in 5 minutes. If it was a couple, 10 minutes. You know, so the more I drew, the more money I made. Well, adding color right now, as I'm practicing again, it adds about 15-20 minutes to the drawing. So, you know, as I say, when I do black and white, that's 4 additional drawings I could do. So, but we'll see what happens. If I go, I'm not sure if I'm going to videotape it or not. I've been taking pictures. I've been posting them on my Facebook account, which is Demi Miente on Facebook. Instagram, I have an account called The Artist Lazarus. I also have Artistic Snail Mail, which is, I like to do cartoons when I write letters. I have several pen pals that I write, and I always do them like almost a comic book style letter. Draw myself, draw different things on it. And it looks like a comic book when I send it out. And so I have an account there where me and a friend of mine's named Maria from Sweden, we post our pen pal artwork there. I started a third one where I started doing this comic strip called Diary of Incarcerated Cartoonist. The account there is called John E. Sachs. And I just started it, so it's got maybe only several cartoons in it.